Hi, I'm Mimi from the YouTube Creator UX team. We're doing this thing called an interview relay, where we interview others on the team about their career journey and talk about other UX related things. Today, I'm going to talk to Lilly, a UX designer on YouTube Analytics. She pretty recently joined the team and previously worked on Google Drive. We're going to talk about what it's like working as a UX designer at YouTube and Google, going from graphic and visual design to UX, disconnecting from work and technology, and we're going to share some good book recommendations too. Yeah, so maybe you can start by telling me a little bit about your background and how you ended up working with design.
When I was a kid, my favorite class was actually informatics. It was my favorite class because it was the only room in the building that had air conditioning. Barranquilla is a very, very hot city. This room was just completely filled with all computers. Most of them were always broken. You had like 6 kids working on just one computer. One day we got to plug one of the computers into the internet, right? And this was just
Wow.
the wildest thing that ever happened to me. Immediately, like all the excuses that I had about how I just couldn't learn something because I didn't have books, because I didn't have money to go to school. And at 14 years old, I learned graphic design. And I was able to land a job when I was 15 years old at a print company, which is pretty wild. My mom had to sign this letter to let me work.
So what happened after that?
I think when I moved to America, I think that was like the biggest kind of shift in my career.
Hmm.
I think I for the first time experienced what it was to be alienated and navigating a new country, a new language, new everything felt a lot like navigating a very poor product experience. America felt like it was not designed for me.
Oh.
So it was a rough start, and I realized that the thing that really got me through all that was products like Google. Uh, I was spending a lot of time on YouTube trying to understand like the intricacies of all the different layers that there is to fit in. I think I just realized how I did want to create products that were able to empower people and really push people like me that I felt like I had a lot of tools, but I just was missing one tool. And that tool was the tool that Google could help me with, and that was language. Um,
Hmm.
so I feel like after that, I realized I wanted to do product design.
What did you kind of discover when you went into this new role? What would you say were the main differences? Was there something that surprised you about working more with digital stuff for web and UX?
I feel like the biggest difference is for me working on graphic design or like, web design in transitioning into products was definitely complexity of um, user journeys overall. One of the products that I worked on was a very complex website, and I got to like understand a lot of information hierarchy and why do people feel overwhelmed when they come to a
Mm,
website, and like Hicks law, and like what are some of the things that you can do in order to like organize information in a way that's like purposeful. I think you're a lot more focused around what is really the user trying to accomplish here. As a product designer, I was hired to question why we were doing things, if it
mhm.
made sense to build something a certain way. And I don't think I had that voice before, and I didn't know how to use it either.
Imagining someone that maybe works with design in some way, but doesn't really do product design or doesn't do digital design that much. I can imagine that this sounds like a lot. Like it sounds like a lot of complexity to have to deal with. Do you have any advice on like how do I make sense of all that and how can you work with that?
First of all, you have to love it, right? Like I feel like everything. I feel like anything you want to try to learn, you have to be passionate about it.
Mm,
Otherwise, you're not gonna enjoy it. I think you have to know that this is the only way you can build a good product. So I think you have to be passionate about making your designs universal. I think I meet a lot of people that tell me, I want to build this product because I would use it. And unfortunately, you are not the user, right? And we are all built so differently. We have completely different biases, we have completely different goals. The products that we need to build need to scale for so many different people in the world. And the more people you want to reach, you need to completely remove yourself from that equation. So I think when you fall in love with the user purpose, or like you advocate the user, I think you actually find it easier to navigate all that complexity. And I think it's also a lot more helpful, right? When you're trying to come into a big meeting with engineering and you're trying to make an argument about something, if you say, oh, I really spend a lot of time thinking about this layout, like I really like it and it's awesome. But I think a stronger argument is users are trying to accomplish this, and because we did this specific layout, we actually were able to ease that flow, and now they're a lot more successful. So being able to take a step back and look at what users are trying to accomplish is actually a stronger argument everywhere. I had this excuse before a lot where I would say I don't have research resources,
Mm.
especially when I was like in startups and stuff like that. And I think I realize how bad of an excuse that is, right? Like you can legitimately show a prototype to anyone. You have friends, you are learning, just draw something, show it to people, see how they will react to it. Just get in the field as much as you can, see how people are using your ideas. And I think
Mm.
that will definitely help you have a better relationship with overall your design process. Just get out there.
I think, overall working at Google feels like this. I know at least when I started, it just felt like this mythical company and you had no idea of what it was to actually work there. So I was just wondering if maybe you could describe what you do. Like, what does a day in your life as an interaction designer at Google actually look like?
I think that the perfect days include me, working with research and like, working with PM and like jumping into like research sessions, like jumping
Yeah.
to ask questions and like spending a lot of time like trying to think of like, what came out of that. I think that the other part of my day is actually spending a lot of time thinking about the business goals, the cultural goals that we have, Google as a whole, the constraints that we have within the product, and then also just like all the different immediate goals that we have, reflecting them into a prototype or a design doc. And I think maybe 10 to 5% of the time is actually trying to represent that into a good UI. But I think we spend like most designers at Google spend 90% of their time just thinking before they even jump into a solution.
Hmm.
I think that also kind of goes back to that, having a good relationship with your designs, because you're not spending like 100% of your time, siloing yourself, coming up with all these different solutions that then once you show to your team, it's like, actually, wait, that was like, we have completely new constraints today.
Yeah.
So you have a healthier detachment from your work.
What would you say have been the biggest challenges for you in your career?
Ooh, a lot, a lot of challenges. I think that the biggest challenge, and this is more of a personal challenge, I think
Hmm.
that there's a saying, uh, adults play games, children just play. I feel like work is like play to me. I feel like I can stay up all night playing video games. I would never do that. I think I would work instead. So I think that has been like some of the biggest challenges in my career, like understanding the balance of like when to
Mm.
stop, when to sleep, when you're tired, like prioritizing other things in that are important for you to be able to do your job well.
What should you try if you struggle with disconnecting?
So I believe that actually, the way that you start your day is very important for you to have a good day for the rest of the day. So that includes, maybe not having phones in your room. So like, don't
Mm.
pick up your phone in the morning. Try to wake up and like try to reflect or try to read or try to do something else that starts your day with like feeling a lot more inspired. I actually think that not thinking is good. Just like sitting there and like
Yeah.
letting your kind of subconscious kind of digest the day and like prepare for the day. The one thing that I've been doing is like I just go to dinner and I just leave my phone at home. I feel like that's a really good way to disconnect. Um, I think doing that really helps, and just taking a lot of breaks throughout the day to like pick up a
Mm.
book and read. Um, Music. Sometimes I just like play music when I'm making breakfast, and I'm just like kind of dancing a little and like just like there's nothing else, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just it. And like I think that finding ways like that, like blissful ways throughout the day where you're actually just disconnecting, and it's
Mm.
so good for you. I usually go climbing when I'm, feeling stuck at work
Yeah.
too. But when I'm there, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is like really helping me actually, disconnect my brain and like try to like, kind of have a better relationship with my thoughts, and I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm thinking about, my
Mm.
hands and, my strength. Right now, I feel like I suck at a million different sports. So I love mountain biking, I love climbing, I love skiing, I love, going to the mountains. Like nature is definitely one of the biggest ways. My brain is just not really thinking about work when I'm there. And I feel like that's when I'm usually my most creative, my most happy, when, I'm outside. You're just enjoying, right? Like you're present, and you're really able to enjoy just the silence. And I would say just try to make time for other hobbies.
Okay, so let's say I'm an interaction designer and I'm looking to get some inspiration and learn something new. What are three resources that I should check out?
One of the books that I love the most is definitely Thinking Fast and Slow. And one of the things that I love about this book is that people tend to assess the importance of a topic or anything at all based on the ease in which they can retrieve it from memory.
Oh,
So our brains don't love hard things.
no,
And this
yeah.
means so much about like UI, right? Like it's like everything that's, hard to digest, leveraging things that users are already familiar with. It's is definitely important. But then also at the same time, this can be used for negative and unethical UIs. That's, kind of such an important book, I think, for understanding and having better ethics around building products.
Yeah.
Another kind of like thing I like to read about, um, on the same theme, is actually the effects of technology on people. There are two books that I would recommend for that. There's The War of Normal People by Andrew Young,
Hmm.
which actually has a lot of, same thoughts from Homo Deus, which is the second book of
Right.
the writer of Sapiens. Um, but it definitely talks about like the effects of technology, like how the world has been affected by it, some of the things that you need to pay attention to that are coming. And I think, again, kind of touch on a lot of that same sentiment of like, we need to be responsible about the products we're building. So I love those two books for that same sense. And then I would read about creativity, right? Like one of my favorite writers is actually Andy Weir. He's a former computer programmer.
Hmm.
He writes like fiction novels. If you might have been familiar with The Martian, or his latest book is actually Project Hail Mary. It's actually a really good book for UX overall because of the way that he kind of navigates technology in order to like figure and problem solve. I think it's one of the most creative books. I won't, give you too much,
Yeah.
because I don't want to ruin it, but it's really incredible. He technically meets a person from a different planet, and he's trying to figure out how to communicate with this person. So he like kind of invents a machine and a product in order to communicate with this person. His way of thinking and problem solving is absolutely creative. I highly recommend it.